Hi everyone, how are you all doing and welcome back. So I thought I'd do a quick video sort of breaking down the tips and tricks that I use to stay alive longer on the battlefield. Just to help you guys out, get those streaks going, get those epic moments going and just make it all around more enjoyable experience. So without wasting any more time, let's jump into it. So to start off with, what's your positioning like on the battlefield? So how often do you use sort of cover to engage enemies? How often do you expose your body to the enemy? And how often do you sort of use the terrain around you to engage the enemy? So what I mean by using cover, how often do you use sort of hard cover, as I'd call it? So this can sort of include walls and buildings and whatnot, sort of things that the bullets can't really penetrate unless it's explosive. Then moving on to sort of soft cover. So if hard cover isn't available, how often do you still use soft cover? So such as bushes, trees and whatnot, sort of things that bullets can go through, but also that sort of doesn't provide the best cover to you as it's quite sort of thin and whatnot. And finally, how often do you sort of use smokes when you can play as a class that can use them? So either the medic or the recon. Smokes, as I've mentioned many times, can be used as cover to get around the battlefield. So I've shown in this clip above. So those few things there, so positioning and using cover, can really sort of help you stay alive longer on the battlefield. I'm always sort of thinking this when I'm moving around and sort of engaging enemies. So if you sort of start thinking of one or two of those and then implement more as you play, you can start to become more aware of what's going on around you, and it can really help you to stay alive that bit longer. Now, moving on to sort of utilising the map and sort of how to sort of read and use it to your advantage. The map is one of the single biggest things that can give you information in this game. Like, I use it all the time just to see kind of what's happening on the battlefield, and I'm going to sort of show you the things that I look out for when moving around. So as you can see on here, we've got the flags G, F and E, and the enemy hold A, B, C and D. So because we're looking on the CD area, as you can see, most of my team is sort of coming from E down towards D. There's a couple of guys sort of flanking around C, and there's sort of one teammate that's sort of moving towards capturing it, or maybe just getting sort of engaged there. Now, what this kind of shows me, and kind of says to me, is that the majority of the enemy will be coming sort of from the CD area, as they have captured D. So I need to sort of be looking out for sort of what's going on around on these flanks. So sort of back towards sort of the G flag and towards sort of the A flag, enemies will sort of be flanking around there. As you can see, our tanks are sort of stationed up on a hill. However, there's hardly any teammates sort of in that area there, so it gives plenty of opportunity for the enemy to sort of flank round. Our flanks to sort of come in sort of the area sort of between D and E. So what I'd probably do is I'd sort of be flanking around that side towards back towards our spawn, so back towards G. I'd be flanking around there to engage the enemy. But that also leaves sort of that whole right hand side of D open, so where back towards the enemy spawn, we have got a guy capping A, and we have got sort of a light armoured vehicle moving around there, sort of causing havoc behind the back lines. But there's still plenty of cover and chance for the enemy to also flank around there. So that's just something that you need to sort of think about, is kind of where the enemy are going to be moving in sort of the relation to where your team are. Like kind of what pockets are open for the enemy to flank around, and kind of what pockets are there for you guys to sort of flank around them. Later on in this game, those two guys that you see at the bottom of C that are on my squad, they do end up capturing B, and we do sort of end up taking D as well. So moving on from sort of using the big overhead map. So this is now your personal sort of radar, kind of what's going on sort of in close proximity to you. So there are different zooms that you can use. I always use it on 150 meters, sort of zoomed out. I believe that's the max zoom you can use, just so I have a wider area and kind of see kind of more of what's going on around me. If I sort of get into tight knit areas, I go to the smaller zoom, just to give me sort of a more close personal view of what's going on. But as you can see here, there's quite a few X's on the map. Now, if you don't know, X's are downed teammates and squad mates where they've been killed in their representative colours. So looking here, I'd sort of be like, okay, so we've got A, B, C and D, and the enemy have got an E, so they're more than likely going to be pushing across from E and sort of coming in from sort of the E direction. But there have been a couple of teammates that have been killed on D. Now from this, I did know that sort of a tank pushed across there and took them out. Later on, some infantry also came across in that direction. So with these X's though, it really does paint a clear picture of what's going on. So that from this you can sort of see enemies are coming across from E towards C, and also moving across towards D and possibly either capturing that or flanking around to C. So just by looking at this, you can see quite a lot's going on. Also, if you have your kill feed to sort of near, what it's now you to do is when enemies sort of or teammates kill sort of in close proximity to you, you get an update. So instead of getting a feed all the time of what's going on around the battlefield, you know, kind of getting cluttered, have it set to nearby, and also to sort of enable you once again to sort of get information that's more relevant to sort of where you are in the battlefield at that time. Also, if you set your kill feed to nearby, it can really give you sort of useful information that's relevant to you. So whether an enemy or a teammate sort of kills in close proximity to you, you get sort of the feed pop up, and that way then you can use that information and act upon it accordingly. Whereas if you have it set to sort of everything that's going on around you, you know, people are killing all over the map, it's not really relevant to you, as you can't really act upon it as quickly or can't really do much about it. Whereas if it's set to nearby, you can get sort of straightforward information, straight to the point, and you kind of know what's going on around you. So just like using the map, footstep sounds can be a really useful way of sort of finding out where the enemy is coming from, as each surface type has a different sound to it. So whether you're running on wood, metal, sand, water, grass, each one sort of gives off a different sound cue, which you can then use to sort of figure out where the enemy is coming from. Also, if you have a headset, even if it's like a cheap £5 one, you can use that information and get the directional sound from it. So you'll sort of hear footsteps to the right of you if the enemy's to your right, to the left if they're to the left, up above you, below you, you know, you can get that directional sound. Whereas if it's sort of playing for the TV or speakers, it's not as clear where they're coming from. So if you can, so get a cheap pair of headphones, it'll really help you to stay alive longer as well. Just from getting that extra sort of directional sound, you can use it to sort of get the drop on the enemy. So with sort of the more common sounds, I'm just going to play some of them now, just so you can get an idea of what they sound like and what to listen out for. There are obviously other sounds, but these are sort of the more common surface types that you'll find on the battlefield. So just showing a quick example, on Panzerstorm between the C and D flag, there's a stream here. It's really the only significant source of water on this map. So say I'm pushing from the D flag and I want to capture the C flag, and I run across this stream. It is that water noise. So I'm an enemy that's here, can't really see over, like once you get into the sort of the dip here behind this hill, but I can hear you crossing the water. So what that will enable me to do is sort of get in position to get the drop on you when you sort of inevitably push up over this crest here. Just things like that you got to be aware of when moving around the battlefield, you know. Try and make as little sort of unique sound as possible, you know. You want to kind of keep your sound as generic as possible. That makes sense. So, you know, obviously in this sort of situation, you want to maybe like try and jump across the stream, you know, just try and get across it without making that water noise, and then try and get in the bushes, you know, try and cover up your noise. And it's the same for like other things, with like bits of metal or bits of wood in sort of small quantities. You know, you want to try and avoid those. This is why headphones are so key though, is because of like sort of the directional surround sound. Even if you're sort of running through the bushes, I'll be able to still sort of pinpoint your location. So like I mentioned before, getting yourself a good pair of headphones can really help you out as well. So to finish up the video, what's your positioning looking like? How often are you sort of using cover to your advantage? What's the map layout looking like? You know, where's your team in relation to the enemy? What are possible flanking routes that you could get flanked from? Reading the map, so where are teammates sort of dying the most, and where would the enemy probably be coming from because of that? Listen out for footstep cues. Setting your kill feed to sort of nearby to get more information personal to you. and not standing still when sort of capturing objectives or sort of engaging enemies. So that sort of rounds out the video for today. Hope you found something helpful in this. If you have any more tips, leave them down below. Help the new players out, or even help me out. There's definitely things I can learn and get better at. And if there's anything I can do to improve the video, leave that down below as well. Always looking to improve these videos and get better. But yeah, if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one.